Katie and Ryan have been married for a few years now. You know how some couples, after tying a knot, slowly drift away from their old friend circles and social hangouts? Well, that was never Katie's way. She had been best friend with Nancy since high school, and nothing was going to change that. Nancy was the kind of person who appeared shy around strangers, but was an unstoppable chatterbox with her close friends. She was always bursting with ideas, some so outlandish that even Ryan had to step in and convince Katie not to go along with them. But after Katie got married, Nancy mellowed out a bit. She wasn't dragging her best friend into as many questionable adventures. Still, their bond remained strong. They met up just as often as before, only now they included Ryan in some of their plans. One Saturday during their usual meetup in Central Park, Nancy excitedly announced a concert happening the following weekend. It was a must-attend event, according to her. Katie agreed, but on one condition: they wouldn't stay too late. "Oh, don't worry about that," Nancy promised. "We'll be out of there by 10. I just can't wait to let loose. And hey, who knows? Maybe I'll even meet someone interesting." Nancy was completely fixated on finding a partner. All their mutual friends had already settled down, and she felt like the odd one out. She was trying everything: dating apps, striking up random conversations in grocery store lines, even taking her chances with strangers in coffee shops. But in-person interactions were a challenge for her, considering her naturally shy nature. Online flirting felt safer, but unfortunately, it hadn't been very successful either. Finally, the night of the concert arrived. Katie assured Ryan she'd be home by 10:30 and, out of courtesy, even asked if he wanted to join them. But concerts weren't really his thing. When Katie met up with Nancy, she almost did a double take. Nancy had gone all out. Her outfit was so striking that she turned heads left and right. "Nancy, I get that you're here to find a date," Katie teased. "But what if a couple guys approach us? Am I supposed to entertain the extra one? How do you want to play this?" "Oh, come on," Nancy laughed. "I promise I won't drag you into anything. You're just my moral support tonight." That promise held strong for about an hour. Then, as Katie glanced away from the stage, she spotted Nancy approaching arm in arm with some guy. Trailing behind them was another man Katie had never seen before. The look on Nancy's face said it all. She needed Katie to go along with whatever she was about to pull. "Just play along," Nancy whispered when she reached her. "Please chat with him for a bit. The other guy is really cute, and I don't want to ruin this chance. You don't have to do anything serious. Just keep him company." So, introductions were made. The guys offered to grab some drinks, and Nancy was practically glowing, clearly smitten with her new interest. Katie, however, remained cautious. Still, she had to admit, Nancy's date's friend, whom they called Mark, was surprisingly easygoing. He was attractive, charming, and most importantly, respectful. He wasn't overbearing or flirtatious, just friendly. They had a light-hearted conversation, and before long, called it a night. A couple of days later, Nancy invited Katie to meet her after work at their favorite little restaurant. When Katie arrived, she immediately noticed how nervous Nancy looked. "You okay? Something happened?" Katie asked. Nancy bit her lip. "Please don't be mad," she blurted. "I knew you wouldn't agree if I asked first, and I was so nervous." Before she could finish, two familiar faces appeared. Mark and Nancy's new love interest. That's when it hit Katie. Nancy had set her up on a double date. It wasn't the first time she had pulled something like this. She had once begged Katie to tag along as backup for a date, which had irritated Katie back then. Clearly, Nancy had learned her lesson and decided to be sneakier this time. Katie was just about to give her a piece of her mind when Mark slid into the seat next to her, flashing a heart-melting smile. For a moment, she forgot why she was even mad. Their conversation flowed effortlessly, and before she knew it, Katie found herself. For just one evening, Katie slipped off her wedding ring. She longed to feel unburdened, to experience the thrill of being unattached, especially with such a captivating man by her side. Within a week, she and Mark were going out alone, no longer including anyone else in their plans. Of course, she kept everything hidden from Ryan. She couldn't even admit to herself how deeply she was falling for another man. Every time they met, she swore it would be the last, that she couldn't continue betraying her vows. But she was already too far gone. Their outings quickly escalated beyond casual strolls in the park or cozy dinners at small restaurants. Meanwhile, Ryan started noticing changes in her behavior. She seemed lost in thought all the time, barely present. There were moments when he spoke to her, and she didn't even register his words. One evening, she was running late from work, and her phone was turned off. Anxiety gnawed at Ryan until he nearly got his car to search for her. Just as his worry reached its peak, Katie finally walked through the door. Relief flooded him, and he pulled her into a tight hug, shaken by all the terrible scenarios that had raced through his mind. But then, something unexpected happened. He caught the faintest trace of a cologne that wasn't his. Unease settled in his chest, but he held back, deciding to observe her a little longer before jumping to conclusions. Katie went about her usual routine, freshened up, slipped into her nightgown, and climbed into bed. That's when Ryan noticed something that left no room for doubt. A mark just above her chest. A hickey, and he knew, without a shadow of a doubt, that it wasn't from him. She had spent weeks complaining of exhaustion, repeatedly brushing off any intimacy. There was simply no way he was responsible for what he was seeing. Forcing himself to stay composed, Ryan fixed his gaze on her and, in a voice as cold as ice, asked, "So, who's your boyfriend?" It wasn't a question of if she had one. His tone made it clear that he already knew. Katie froze. Her mouth parted slightly, eyes welling up with tears. She had never been good at coming up with quick excuses or mounting strong defenses, and Ryan saw this as his moment to press her for the truth, and press he did. Katie broke down, sobbing uncontrollably. Between gasps for air, she confessed. She had never meant for things to spiral out of control, but what started as simply helping Nancy meet someone had somehow turned into a full-fledged affair. She even admitted how it all began, recounting the unexpected double date that changed everything. With every word, she pleaded for forgiveness, insisting she regretted every choice she had made. Ryan, however, sat in stunned silence, absorbing the weight of her betrayal. When her tears finally subsided, she looked at him, hoping, praying, that he would consider giving their marriage another chance. But his expression was unreadable. Finally, he exhaled deeply and, with unwavering finality, said, "No, Katie, this is it. I'm done. I will never forgive you for this. Pack your things and leave." A fresh wave of tears threatened to spill from her eyes, but Ryan shut her down before she could plead again. He gestured for her to move faster, making it clear that there would be no drawn-out arguments, no discussions, no second chances. She made a few weak attempts to say something, anything, but Ryan had already turned away, walking into another room, leaving her alone with her suitcases. That night, just before midnight, Katie left. Ryan had no interest in dissecting her reasons, no desire to debate what had led her to cheat. In his eyes, it was all pointless. The problem had presented itself, and the solution was simple, a clean break. For the next week, Katie stayed with a friend, drowning in heartbreak. She cried until she had no more tears left. But then, someone suggested something that planted a seed in her mind. Maybe this was all just fate. If her connection with Mark had been so intense that it led to the collapse of her marriage, then maybe they were meant to be together. Nothing was stopping them now, right? Only by the time Katie came to that realization, it was too late. Mark had discovered the truth, that she had been married the entire time and had kept it from him. Disgusted by the deception, he immediately cut ties. And once he heard that her husband had thrown her out, whatever attraction he had felt disappeared completely. He even stopped replying to her messages. That's when Katie truly felt abandoned. She called him relentlessly, desperate to explain. She even showed up outside his apartment, hoping to catch him by surprise. But the more she chased, the further he pulled away. In the blink of an eye, she had lost everything. The man she had loved for years and the one she had risked it all for. For the next month, she spiraled into a deep depression. She took time off work, unable to function, and when the day finally came for her to return, she couldn't bring herself to face her colleagues. One missed day turned into several, and before long, she lost her job too. Eventually, she pulled herself together just enough to find new employment. She even started dating again. And wouldn't you know it, Nancy was single once more, back on the hunt for romance. So, the two of them hit the town together, both searching for someone new. Of course, there were details neither of them shared. Nancy wasn't about to admit how long she had been chasing love without success, and Katie certainly wasn't about to explain the real reason her marriage had fallen apart. And that's just how life goes sometimes. One moment, you think you have everything under control. The next, it all unravels before your very eyes. Katie had learned that lesson the hard way. Now, all she could do was pick up the pieces, one date at a time.